Hi everybody, thanks for joining us and welcome to our quick introduction to school streets. We're very pleased to have you all here today. We're just here for a quick taster of the School Streets programme, but we hope to come forward with more information over the coming year. We're very grateful to have some guest speakers here. We've got Councillor Bridget Smith and we have Lyn Hesse from the County Council, who is responsible for the School Streets programme. And we also have Emma Dyer from South Cambridgeshire District Council, who have very kindly supported our project through the South Cambs Zero Carbon Communities Programme. Thank you, Emma.
Hi everybody, my name's Emma. I'm the Climate and Environment Project Officer at South Cambs District Council. I work on our Zero Carbon Communities programme and I'm leading on the Climate and Environment Fortnight of online events. Today's event from Camcycle is the last in our series of events, which we have been providing for different audiences, but all with the common theme of encouraging sustainability. I would like to thank Roxanne from Camcycle, who is going to talk through the School Streets project, which was funded through round 2 of our Zero Carbon Communities grant scheme. But before we hand over to Roxanne, I would like to hand over to Councillor Bridget Smith, the leader of our council, who would like to say a few words. Thank you.
I've got 3 grown-up sons, they're all in their 20s, and I drove them around all over the place because there was no way they could cycle safely to the school they went to. They wouldn't have survived a week probably. But parents have to be confident that their children are going to be safe, so that the children can be independent, as I'm sure we all would like them to be. And most importantly, if we can teach children, and I was a teacher, so I'm well aware that early habits perpetuate through all your life. So if children, are used to active travel and walking, then as children, then they will do it all their lives. So I'm a long distance walker. I'm also a cyclist, and I have dragged my children on tremendously long cycle rides and tremendously long walks, moaning every inch of the way. But as young adults, they now all cycle and walk for pleasure. And I remember a long time ago, I was chair of our local preschool, and I decided that we'd take all the children out for a walk, and it was only about 3 kilometres. And these were kind of 3-4-year-olds. Some of those children didn't know how to walk. They'd never done it. So they certainly wouldn't have known how to cycle safely on a road. And I used to do what used to be called cycling proficiency as well. So when I was a teacher, I was the cycling proficiency person as well. So I'm really excited about having talked to Roxanne about the opportunity to find cost-effective solutions, because the problem is, we can solve these problems if we have loads of money to throw at them. So we had to move the zebra crossing in my village, but I think it cost 70,000 quid to move that zebra crossing just a few metres down the road, and that's just not, we just don't have the money for things like that. So Roxanne assures me that this work is going to identify low-cost solutions that deliver maximum outcomes, but being very mindful that we need regulatory changes as well, and that's where I come in my political role, to be lobbying for those regulatory changes that allow us to really start making the school streets in South Cambridgeshire, as well as Cambridge City, great places for children to travel in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Thank you, Bridget and Emma, for your introductions and your enthusiasm for this project. And Camcycle, we're so grateful that South Cambs has put some funding towards our work to promote the School Streets programs or potential. Now, we found the screen while that was happening, so we've got some slides. Here we go. I hope you can all see that. So here we have our introduction to the School Streets programme, and this is a very, very quick introduction. We're just at the start of Camcycle's project to bring together resources, best practice, communities around school streets. And what we want to do today is just whet everybody's appetite for the potential and to explain what they are and how they work. But we also want to hear from you, our attendees, about what you think the issues are or what you think would help you the most, so that we can bring that into our project. Quick idea of the agenda. We've had our introduction. We'll do a bit about school streets, and then we'll be joined by Lyn Hesse from the County Council, who is responsible for the School Streets programme there. And just to let everybody know, we are recording this webinar so that we can share it with even more stakeholders to get more people excited about school streets. Quick introduction to Camcycle. We work for more, better and safer cycling for all ages and abilities in and around the Cambridge region. And we're focusing more and more on that and around the Cambridge region, because it's not just about people being able to cycle in the city, it's about people coming into the city by sustainable transport modes, but also around villages, around towns, connecting into villages as well. So we're certainly looking at that bigger picture of the region. We have over 1,560 paid members, and as of yesterday, 450 of those do live in South Cambridgeshire, and that's growing every day. We've been around since 1995, and we are a registered charity. And we have a few staff members who you've met today. And just to give you an idea of our vision for the region, it's about more, better and safer cycling. But what does that actually give you? Well, it's about a thriving and sustainable region. And I think that is more important than ever. We've really felt the impact of the pandemic. And I think a green recovery is really on people's minds. It's about making sure we have places where anyone can start or continue to cycle. And about healthy and happy people. And again, that's more important than ever. And school streets and getting more children cycling to school, getting their families being more active contributes to every single one of these outcomes. And you can see in our vision, there are many, many other ways that we can achieve that as well. So here we have a little case study from a local school to me, actually, St Philip's Primary School, who recently implemented a school street.
So I'm Sarah Swire, I'm a parent governor here at St Philip's, and we've decided to embrace the school street scheme. Over the summer, we negotiated with the council and they came and risk assessed the area and decided what closure points we'd have. Myself, I had to arrange a team of volunteers, so we've got people to man all the closure points twice a day. So we close for half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the afternoon, just to give the children more space as they come out. It just makes a much nicer environment around the school and allows them to use the road space to cycle or scoot or walk and get to school in a calmer frame of mind.
I think this road blockage is excellent because it makes it a lot safer for the school, and with COVID we can now spread out on the road.
It used to be quite a hazard just getting children to cross this one small road. It's surprisingly busy, but now it feels so much safer and a lot more comfortable to be able to let the children get to school safely and home again.
I bought my first bike for 10 years during lockdown, and since the School Streets initiative I've felt able to cycle the school run. Before, this road was quite congested. There were lots of cars driving up and down, sometimes at quite high speed. There were delivery drivers, people turning around outside the school, sometimes even using the school driveway. And I just didn't feel safe, first of all myself as an inexperienced cyclist, cycling this area, and also my son. Up until School Streets initiative, I didn't feel comfortable letting him cycle down this segment of the road, so he would go on the pavement and I would walk alongside. Whereas now, thanks to the initiative, we're able to cycle the whole way on the road. Yeah, and we've certainly noticed a big difference. It's helping with our fitness as well.
I used to drive to school every day because
we won't go through the whole video, but you can see the rest of that on the School Streets page of Camcycle's website, and we'll give you some links at the end. So we want to make sure we have lots of time for discussion. So I'll hand over now to my colleague Anna, and she'll tell you about what is a school street.
So what is a school street? Well, as it says here, a school street is a road outside a school with a temporary restriction on motorised traffic at school drop-off and pick-up times. And as you saw from the video, that's typically means the street is closed to through traffic for 2 sessions of about half an hour a day, with barriers and road closed signs put up and attended by volunteers. And they can be either parents from the school or local residents. But also, if we think about what a school street really is, it's a tool to tackle lots of the big issues we face, helping reduce carbon emissions, air pollution and road danger, improving health and helping children become more independent. And as we saw from the video, there are also social well-being benefits from this. The little boy was saying, you know, there's more space to spread out in these COVID times. There's also a calmer start to the day and more time to chat with friends. So we go on to the next slide, why we would choose a school street. And really simply because they work in achieving the goals set out that we in the last slide. So there's still quite a lot of evidence gathering going on around school streets, but from the most recent research, we know that they reduce motor traffic, not just in the school street itself, but also surrounding streets. They increase levels of active travel, they're supported by the majority of parents and residents, and they don't result in any road safety issues from displaced traffic. And the chart at the bottom here is an example from a primary school in London, where the head teacher initially wasn't really convinced about changes to the streets in the area. So they had a school street put in and also some other measures to create a low traffic neighbourhood around the school. But I think the statistics here tell a powerful story. In just 1 year, half of the people that used to drive to school are now including active travel in their journey, even if it just means parking a little bit further away and then walking to school. And even the head teacher herself started cycling to school every day for her journey.
So if we move on now to thinking about how we create school streets, the first thing to think about is really getting the school community on board and the local community. My professional background is in teaching too, and I have some really wonderful but also some disappointing experience of the local community being a real catalyst for or a barrier to implementing new initiatives. So this is about starting to create a mind shift in the school's local community, really helping people to reimagine the street space as it currently is at drop-off and pick-up times to something more like that which you've just seen from the school St Philip's in Cambridge. So engaging people in the local community is really vital for 2 main reasons. First of all, as Anna's just mentioned, you need volunteers in order to implement a school street. And some of the best examples that we've seen have involved local residents involved in some of the marshalling and other activities to help get the school street in place. So these are people coming straight out of their homes and onto the scene in the mornings and in the afternoons. So the implementation of a school street can be really quick, but also really sustainable. The other thing to mention is that when the school street schemes come up for consultation, all of these people in the local community will be asked to share their views. So if they've been on the journey with you, then they're much more likely to be able to speak about it in an informed way, but also in a positive way. So how do you go about doing that? Well, the best thing that schools have, the best tool that they have is the positive pester power of the children. So giving over time in assemblies, in registration time, using the school council and eco reps if the school has them, to really get across this message that school streets are about how we can live well together in the community will be really vital. Also, of course, the PTA, the governing bodies of schools will be really influential here, and any inroads that schools have into the local community, such as through local residents associations, could be really helpful too. And of course, for Camcycle, you know, this webinar is the beginning really for us of a project that's about trying to create resources and link communities up with those resources to help promote the school streets scheme. So please engage with your community and engage with us as part of that so that we can help promote it for you.
Thanks, Rosie. So then onto the technical part of, well, how do you create a school street? And the sort of typical way a school street is created is through putting in temporary filters around the school. And that filter is essentially some cones, some signs, and a volunteer standing there saying, no cars, you can't come through for the next half hour or so while the children are walking and cycling safely to school. And to get one of those in, you need something called a traffic regulation order, a TRO. And usually that would start as an experimental TRO, where you try it for 6 months, get that feedback, and then decide if that will be put into place as a permanent situation or if it needs to be refined. And I'll let Lyn talk a bit more detail about how that works with the county. To get that in place, you will need to have a risk assessment completed. And again, that's done with the county council, and they'll identify if your school is able to put a school street in as it is. But I would say that challenge that, look at, well, where is the risk? Can we fix that risk? If we're told we can't have a school street for this reason, how can we go about fixing that? And it might be that you need a very expensive, change, like Bridget's mentioned earlier, how expensive it can be to get a crossing put into place. But there are other ways to get that funding through, like local highways improvement funds. And you just never know what funding might be around the corner. So always have an idea of what do we need to fix in order to make this happen. Of course, you'll need some equipment to do that, and the county does provide some equipment. But if you are putting in a scheme like this, you have to make sure that you're doing the monitoring, the evaluation, and the engagement. So with the county council, you do need to be signed up to their Mode Shift Stars program, and you can start that well before a school street goes in, and also follow along with their evaluation processes. So if you can't do a school street, that's the typical school street, but maybe there are other ways that you can create a safe traveling to school environment, doing the engagement, looking at other highways improvements. If at first you don't succeed, keep trying, because I think attitudes around this are changing more and more. The Department for Transport is becoming more and more encouraging and putting more funding, hopefully continuing towards active travel. And the Prime Minister himself has stated that we need a new golden age of cycling, and brought in a range of policies just in the last year that are quite impressive. We have also seen occasionally where the DFT finds some spare change behind the couch or something, and suddenly there's a pot of money for little transport schemes. So know what you want and be prepared for if the opportunity comes up. That leads me to funding. So a typical school street will probably cost around £3,000 to £5,000, and that's really paying for that traffic regulation order process, the consultation process, bits and pieces of equipment. There is a program, there is some funding with the county council at the moment, and again, Lyn can provide some shape around that. But I would say that don't be put off if you don't immediately see this easy bucket of money at the county. How else might money become available? Is there a funding program with South Cambs District Council? They've got their Zero Carbon Communities Fund every year. I don't want to speak for Emma or that program, but maybe there's an opportunity there. Could your parish council find some extra funding? Do you have local developers that want to contribute to the community, or likewise local businesses? I think this would be an amazing promotional opportunity for a local employer, a local business to fund a school street and get all the positive publicity that comes with that. So is there a business you could approach? And of course, schools know all about fundraising and working with the PTA, and there are always other sources for grants as well. And that's the kind of thing that this project will do with Camcycle, is pull together this information. If we find any suitable grants, funding opportunities, we'll be putting those together and sharing them with the school streets community. So I think we are right on schedule with our agenda. So I will hand over to Lyn now to provide her experience and perspective from the County Council. Thank you, Lyn.
Hi everybody, it's good to be with you. First to say that the emergency funding was manna from heaven for us. This is something we've been working towards for a number of years and wondering how we were going to do it. We've been working for a couple of years now, 2.5 years, with the university to do a clean air study in 2 schools in Cambridge City. So actually, when the emergency funding came through, we were really well placed to move forward with school streets. And just to say that the clean air study will start after Easter. It's been put back, but it will start after Easter. And they are going to do the evaluation for us on those 2 schools, plus all of our school streets, which is absolutely fantastic because we'll have a lot of data. So initially what we did was we just put a blanket email out to all schools to show an expression of interest. We did stipulate that they needed to sign up to our STARS, which is an online platform, and we have over 90 schools now registered on STARS. It gives us a lot of information. It gives accreditation to the schools, and also it gives them access to a lot of our resources. So really, we were really well placed to start moving on with this when it came on stream. We've now got 6 schools running, and we've got another 7 coming on board after Easter. Now, moving forward, hopefully, they will be sustainable and we'll be able to keep them going even when the emergency funding stops. And I'm already in conversations as to how we move the scheme forward. And my thinking is that this time next year, probably, a bit earlier maybe, we will go out again to all schools, and to keep the costs down, we'll do one big TRO for the lot once a year. And I think that's really doable. For those that you know, it wasn't appropriate for school streets, they didn't meet the risk assessment, we've introduced walk-in bubbles. We do a lot of other, you know, resources that schools can borrow free of charge. So it's really been a journey for us. We've got loads of volunteers. They've been absolutely fantastic. And I think, as has been said before, where it really works is where the community takes and runs with it. You know, we've got governors, we've got councillors, we've got neighbours, we've got grandparents. All of the schools have, they've set up WhatsApp groups. I mean, 5 days, morning and afternoon, is a massive commitment. So some schools got 30, 40 volunteers, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's where it works and where it works well. So has anybody got any questions for me? I mean,
thank you so much, Lyn. Yes, we'll open it up to questions now, and I'll put on all of our speakers so you can direct a question to any of us, or anyone can chip in. And we have a first question already, which is, has the air quality increased around school streets, and by how much?
It's too early to say yet, but I'm sure the answer is going to be yes. The air quality monitors have gone up in 2 schools in Cambridge. And we'll see what that produces. They're also having school streets as well. But yeah, the answer, I'm sure, is going to be yes. And this is what's happened in Hackney, in Edinburgh, in Bristol, Birmingham. You know, we really researched which route we were going to do, and they've had fantastic results. And that would be the next, you know, ideal thing for us, to put monitoring equipment absolutely everywhere. And there's loads of companies now that do that, and we are looking into that. So that would be another massive step.
Absolutely. And we're getting, yeah, as you said, Lyn, really great results from other cities, which we expect to be replicated here. We have a question from Ian about what is STARS? That's right.
It's mode shift. It's mode shift STARS. And it's funded by the government. All schools have access to it, and it's an online platform for monitoring modal shift.
Excellent. Is that an acronym, Lyn? What does that one stand for?
Well, it's just active travel, really, and it goes right through, not only for schools, but businesses can access it. I don't know, Bridget, if you've got a travel plan for the district council. I mean, it would be interesting to put the council buildings through the mode shift platform, because then you've got a monitoring tool to see what's happening.
Yeah. We'll post a link in there. I'd post it for you, but Zoom has just decided that I can't access any browsers. But we'll get that link to you, and we'll have it linked on from our School Streets page on our website as well. We've got a comment from Amy, really support the county-wide TRO, great idea. And I really do agree, but I guess it means everyone needs to be organised at the same time, so that could go forward. Would you agree, Lyn? And should we start?
I think that's the most sensiblest way. And I think the beginning of a term is ideal. You know, you don't want to start in the middle of a term, really. You want to build up. And it's a holistic approach for us. We've got junior travel ambassadors in a lot of our schools now as a resource, and they're all linked into STARS, and we're just going to trial the youth travel ambassador scheme in our secondaries. So it's a holistic approach, and it seems the most sensible way forward, I think, rather than having, you know, some schools start here and some schools, and also they can build up, which we've started to do, a support network for each other. So schools are contacting other schools that are doing it and seeing what works for them, what ideas they've had. It just seems the most sensiblest way forward.
Yeah. Excellent. So we have a question, two questions onto the same subject, which is how easy is it to persuade volunteers to come forward, and how many volunteers do you need for each 30-minute closure? And we created a bit of a formula to help calculate the number of volunteers just last night when we were talking about this, which is that essentially you need to have the number of closure points, and ideally 2 volunteers per closure point, but we've seen from St Philip's they occasionally have 1, times the number of shifts. So you've got 10 shifts a week, X number of closure points, and it depends on your school setup, and then volunteers for each of those, as well as people to coordinate.
Yeah, we're saying 2 to 3 at each closure point, purely because health and safety, really, and our insurance. I mean, all the volunteers are on the County Council insurance policy. All have walkie-talkies, so that if anything happens, somebody can stay where they are, or 2 people stay where they are, while somebody else goes. You know, and the walkie-talkies, there's one in the school office. So that's what we've found for health and safety purposes, that works for us. And also, you've got to think that some schools have got up to 4 closure points, and they're quite some distance away. So you're talking about a huge amount of volunteers, possibly.
Yeah, and you also need additional, I guess, floating volunteers to help if a car does need to come through.
Sickness, holidays, all of that. So, and this is why they, you know, they've set up a WhatsApp group, and they, you know, who's doing this today? I can't do it. Can you do that? And it seems to be working. Other heads have offered free after school club places if you volunteer, or free breakfast club places if you volunteer. I mean, there's lots of things you can be doing, actually, and it's good to get this communication going between schools, because some of the things they come up with we hadn't really, you know, thought about, but we have invested in our volunteers. We do a good training package. We give them a backpack each, which is full of tabards, the walkie-talkies, a notebook, a whistle, so that the children know if a whistle is blown, that's a signal for stop, stand still, whatever. So we've really invested in this and looking after our volunteers, because they're the key, really.
Absolutely. And I've been wondering if as we progress with this project, we have some more webinars focused on just the specific issues, and we can have one just about volunteers and what do they get, what are the best things that some schools are doing to motivate volunteers, and just get more of a conversation around that. And I think it's important to note that your volunteers don't just have to be coming from the school. Local residents might volunteer. And if you've got someone that just happens to live across the road or around the corner and they're very close and don't mind popping out.
It can be absolutely anywhere, anybody. You know, I'm thinking of one in particular, is actually one of our retired local highways officers that just happened to be walking by when I was doing training. He said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I explained. He said, "What a good idea, put me down." Now he has nothing to do with the school at all. He just thinks, actually, this is a blooming good idea. I've got a few hours to spend, you know, I'll do it. So
making a nice community, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where it's gonna, because it was the same thing with walking buses, that we just couldn't get the volunteers, or if we did, it didn't have much longevity. But this is really where the community takes and runs with it. Yes, it's important to have the parish council on board, it's important to have the school on board, but it's really working everywhere, wherever you go, Hackney, Birmingham, it's where the community take and run with it.
Yeah, brilliant. And then I guess in other boroughs in London, school streets can be monitored by cameras. So why don't we have the option of cameras in Cambridgeshire? Or I can answer that as well, Lyn, but I'll let you have the first go.
It's illegal. We haven't got that power.
Yeah, we're waiting for various parts of the Traffic Management Act to be implemented, and we've been waiting a very long time, but we've been repeatedly promised by grant chaps that it will happen. So
yeah, I think it's very different though, that in as much as Cambridge City, I could see it, but rural locations, it's just not viable at all.
Yeah.
And you know, we have got school streets in very rural locations.
Yeah, and perhaps it becomes, there's almost a combination where you have the camera that can get number plates and do enforcement, but at those key school times you still need that volunteer presence to make sure everyone's safe and it's organised.
Yeah. And I do have to say that we haven't had a lot of problems. I was expecting, maybe because I do a section with the volunteers on what to do if you get verbal abuse, all of that, or you get a drive-through, and we haven't had a lot, and that's been very surprising. Where we have, we've been on it straight away. I have a casualty reduction officer that I work very, very closely with the police, and I notify him straight away. And then he can notify the local sergeant, policing sergeant, and it's dealt with almost immediately. So again, the volunteers feel very supported.
Yeah. So another question is, in school streets, do you get a big pile up of cars just outside the filter? And I'll add to that, there's the question of what happens if someone does need to drive through the school street zone.
Okay, so in the rural schools, I do have to say, initially that was a problem because a lot of small schools are having a lot of out of catchment children. So they have to, so you have to give them an alternative. You just have to. We've got school pub, we've got village pubs, recreation grounds, all sorts of places that we've done deals with where publicans or the parish council have agreed that they can park for that time and put park and stride, or as I say, on the walking bubble, 5-minute walking zone. So that's worked really well. You just have to look for alternatives and encourage. It's about behaviour change and encouraging, you know, parents to park and stride, park and scoot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as people get more and more used to it and they find ways to integrate this into their schedules, you start to get hopefully fewer filling up.
Yeah,
right.
People drive for a variety of reasons, and it's not always because they're lazy. You know, maybe they're going on to work, or all sorts of things actually, but you just have to give the alternatives.
Yeah, and that ties in then with the next question that we've had come through. It's quite long, but essentially saying, you know, that's what some parents are saying. Their children are too young to independently travel to school, but their lives, be it for work or for other reasons, they just can't fit in that walking to school in the morning or the evening. So how do we accommodate those parents for whom this would be quite a challenge to get their kids to school?
Yeah, I fully understand that. I really do. You know, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, but I think if you give parents a reasonable option that's not miles away, you know, that they can actually do a 5-minute park and stride. That's not beyond anybody's capabilities. It really isn't. And it is finding those, you know, different options. In one village, you know, we've got a whole, well, quite a few houses that have given up their drives where parents can park and stride. So there are alternatives. You just have to think about them and drip feed those ideas, really. And then when parents see it's actually working and it's actually more beneficial for the trip to school and for the children, they're more likely to buy into it.
And I think we have to just accept that the status quo is, we can't keep going this way. We can't have the danger that we have in front of schools. We can't have this over-reliance on cars with the pollution, the road danger. I mean, things have to change. We have to provide the options, and not everybody has to change, but enough people do have to change so that our children are safe and we look after the planet.
In an ordinary year, you know, 80% of my phone calls that I get is from schools playing, please, can you do something about our parking situation? It's massive. It's absolutely massive. And what I say to all schools is it's no good getting to that crisis point. When you go and speak to children and parents at preschools, that's the time to be saying, if you come to my school, the expectation is you park and stride, you bike, you cycle, you walk. You know, it is a drip feed, and we do have a lot of resources around parking because it's a big part of our work, actually. So, as I say, school streets have been manna from heaven for us.
Yeah, that's good to hear, Lyn. And I guess it is still possible to get some cars through these filters. You can move the cones, you can move the signs. So if somebody, if there was a child with a disability where or other issues where you really, they couldn't walk to school, could they come through in a car if they need?
Yeah, okay. So how it happens is school transport, the team there are notified of the school streets taking part, and we ask the school to notify them as well, so that if we have a child with special needs, obviously they're going to go through. When we do the risk assessment, we're not only looking at the road environment, we are looking at what else is around. Are there older people that are going to want carers coming through, for instance? Is there a refuge? Is there all sorts of things? So yes, while we are saying it's not a good idea to walk a car through, because that's what we're saying. If a car comes through, and it has to come through, it has to be walked through like you would if you were doing a funeral car, actually. Somebody walking it through, because we're talking about a lot of children here. So we do say, wherever possible, if you've got a Sainsbury's delivery or a delivery of a bed or whatever, please just avoid that hour in the morning or that hour in the afternoon. It's not too much to ask. And now you can book your deliveries. It's very easy to do. We have had delivery drivers that have turned up Sainsbury's, and he said, oh, it's all right, I can barrow it through. They've been really understanding. It's been amazing, actually. So yes, I mean, if it's absolutely necessary, then yes, you can walk a car or a van through. But as I say, it is somebody escorting, a volunteer escorting that vehicle through the school street.
And I think that what we see a lot, or across all the campaigning that we do in Camcycle, is this perception that if you don't allow vehicles, you're making an area very inaccessible for people with disabilities. But actually, if you make that area safe, if you don't need to stick to a pavement that's too narrow and you're not dodging cars parked everywhere, that actually you might make that space a lot more accessible for people who may have some mobility issues.
And not only that, they're really up for it. I've just risk assessed, well, just before the lockdown, a school that's coming on board in April, and it's a whole cul-de-sac of older people living. And I had 2 or 3 people come out to me and say, I'm really pleased you're doing this. I'm really pleased that, you know, we're not going to have all these cars parked outside and blocking our driveways and everything else. So, you know, I think people are really up for it. They've been really supportive.
Yeah. Okay, well, we promised this was a quick introduction. So we are at 12:44. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen, which has some contact details if anyone would like to find out more. I would say that if you want to kick off a School Streets program, that emailing Lyn is the way to go. There's the School Streets website, School Streets email address there. But if you're looking for just some other support, advice, Camcycle is here to help as well. If you want us to put something in our magazine or in our emails that go out to our members, social media, we're here to help as well. And we are working over the next year to bring together all the resources and best practices that we can. We hope to do more webinars. This webinar is recorded, so it'll go on that website as well. We're trying to really churn up lots and lots of enthusiasm for School Streets and to see as many of them as possible across Cambridgeshire and South Cambs. But we'll stick around for another 15 minutes if anyone wants to keep having an informal chat. I can even promote you up so you can join a conversation. But if you need to run at the end of your lunch break, then you're good to go. I'll just say thank you so much to Lyn. You've been invaluable with all of your fabulous insights and the hard work that you have done on the School Streets programme. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for your fantastic introduction, and for Emma for helping us make this all happen, and to my fabulous colleagues, Anna and Rosie. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And I will let you go, or let me know if you'd like to keep chatting. There we go. Anyone more questions, or anyone want to pop up and show their face and have a question, then you can do so. And thank you for the lovely thanks coming through. That's fantastic. And we're very keen. Just let us know if you're doing a School Streets project. We'd love to be kept in the loop about how it's going, and we can help promote it. Bridget or Emma, any last thoughts?
Just so interesting. I'm actually inspired by it. Brilliant. Really exciting. So I'm sure Emma and I will pick up at some stage. And actually, I think, from the point of view of, funding, I like the idea about getting local businesses to sponsor it. I think that's great. But, we'll have a conversation about whether it, individual projects fit in with our zero carbon grant scheme, and what sort of package we'd be looking for, and whether, so yeah. I think we probably need to report it to our grants committee, don't we, and our Climate and Environment Committee as well, Emma.
That's right. I mean, the Zero Carbon Communities Grant Round 3 is going to be launched on the 10th of May. So we're allocating 20% of the actual grant fund to exceptional projects that there's no specific sort of theme on. So if you have got a sort of project with your school, if you're a PTA, a non-profit organisation, and you would like to apply, just keep an eye out on our web pages, and if you want to sign up to our Zero Carbon Communities newsletter, where you find out the latest updates, if you contact us, I can add you to the mailing list, or if you've got any projects or ideas that want to be included in the newsletter, please let me know.
And the newsletter is great, and we know we're really interested in innovation and exemplary projects. Happy to doing funding pilots of things that might or might not work. That's fine. Not everything will work, but funding a pilot that actually might then really have legs and be rolled out locally, nationally, worldwide. Who can say? So. Anyway, I'm going to scoot off, but thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. John, you've got your hand up.
Hi, good. Hi, everyone. And I suspect, I'm welcome to have a conversation on this, that a lot of school teachers and head teachers feel extremely stressed and pressurised at the moment with COVID and all the rest of this. And this is the kind of feedback I'm getting at my local school, indirectly, shall I say, not directly, saying, look, we just haven't got time to cope with all this. And although, to be honest, I've heard that even before COVID, that, because of changes in the national curriculum, or this, that and the other, there's never spare time, is there, if you're a teacher? Lots of my friends are teachers, and, teachers don't have an easy life. So how can we support or encourage our our teaching staff to perhaps move this forward, and also without burdening them with the effort that it might add to their daily workload? I suppose that's my question.
Okay, so what we've done is, you're absolutely right. You know, this has been a truly difficult time for teaching staff and for head teachers, having daily, you know, newsletters every day, not only from the DFE, but from the County Council as well. So at one school, the parish council is running with it. They're organising it, they're organising the volunteers with full support of the head teacher, but it's just took, you know, the burden off her shoulders, really.
Yeah.
The other thing to say is, in the 90 odd schools that we've got STARS running, we have a travel champion, and that doesn't have to be teaching staff. It can be support staff, it can be a governor, it can be a parent, it can be just somebody who's interested in the community. So really, there is no need for schools to be worried about it. Just delegate it, and that's what we say to heads all the time. I know you haven't got time for this, delegate it. And it works well.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if perhaps there may be some grandparents out there who are perhaps at a bit of a loose end. You know, once they get their jab, they perhaps might want to get more involved in helping set these type of things up.
It can be absolutely anybody. What they really need is a travel champion who then can work with us and look at all sorts of resources and ways that we can help them. That's all you need, is a travel champion.
Do all schools have a travel champion? Presumably not.
No, it's that those that have signed up to STARS need a travel champion for us to move it forward. But no, you don't have to have not all schools have to have a travel champion. It's just somebody who's got an interest, really.
Yeah. Perhaps it might be useful to share a link, Roxanne, on this STARS programme so that we can all find out a little bit more about it. I suppose there's something on your Cambridgeshire County Council website.
Yeah, if you go to our road safety website,
it's just a bit of an acronym that people perhaps don't understand, but it might be quite useful.
Show you all
the link in the chat
that we're able to share free of charge. It's all free of charge as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. And I know Bottom.
Can I just come back to you on?
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so just that part of the role that what Camcycle wants to do is to help get more knowledge in the community about what a school street is, and we might find those champions in surprising places, encouraging parents and so on. So we know that the county is so strapped, and if there are ways that we can help to just get that public awareness and knowledge and buy-in of school streets, that will help those teachers, and especially if it's coming from parents, if it's coming from governors, and I think we need to help get as much of the engagement work going, get as much of the community support as possible in place, so that isn't all resting on teachers. This has to be a community effort, and I think that's where Camcycle is really trying to stir up that knowledge and enthusiasm, so it's not all on teachers and on the county to do all of that. We all need to do our part. Sorry, just want to get that little point in there.
That's good. I also wonder maybe if we could just be sharing information more about which schools have successfully established school streets in Cambridgeshire. Because a lot of people over here in Hunts probably think, oh, you know, over in Cambridge, you're all cycling fanatics anyway.
Well,
so it's
we've got a lot in Hunts. Don't be afraid, we've got a lot in Hunts. It's all on our website. Just go to the
no, I mean, I know that it's Camcycle and myself and your road safety team getting that message out to make it perhaps the odd press release or something to say, look, you know, this, because you know, this school in wherever has set them up. I actually don't know where they are in Huntingdonshire.
I think we are in difficult times. In normal circumstances, yes, we are putting out press releases, we are blowing our own trumpet, all the rest of it. But there are so many messages at the moment going out, particularly around, you know, social distancing, around COVID. It's not normal times. You know, we're putting it out on our Twitter feed, we're putting it out on the partnership, on the Zero Partnership website, all of that. But I do have to say a lot of it is getting lost because of all the
I mean, I'm thinking if we could like show Beaux, if that's the phrase, you know, say there's one in Huntingdonshire, which is a good example to show it can work.
So
in
John,
somewhere out in the sticks.
Can I let Anna come in as our comms officer? I'll just say that there's a lot we've wanted to do, but we can't during a pandemic. We can't travel, we can't talk to people. The schools haven't been in, but Anna's certainly got some response for you there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think the video that we did at St Philip's has been really successful. A lot of people viewed that online. And I think, yeah, we'd love to do a rural one just sort of to show the contrast, a different situation. And like you say, just to showcase ones in different areas of the county to kind of inspire other schools.
And our last newsletter was just focused on school streets, actually, and walking bubbles that goes to all schools, all councillors, all parishes. So libraries, it is getting out there.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I think that our lunch break, our lunchtime webinar session is probably about coming to an end. So I'll just thank everybody again. Thank you, everybody. We'll get this up on our website and we'll email everybody who registered so that they've got access as well. But as we said earlier, we're just at the beginning of this project. So we're here to hear from you as well. So any ideas or any things that you think we can help with, we're very keen to hear about that. But I'll just say thanks everyone and we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.